Mm. Very good, loaded question. Important question. I think the fundamental challenge that social media are presenting to sources of authority is the issue of control, right? That's where the action is. That's the tension. Because if you think about the 20th century and the emergence of mass media, typically we saw huge media companies that served countries, governments, communities, and a modest number of each. So the U.S. had three big television networks, right? So if you could control those networks, you could disproportionately influence that society. And now that communication has become fragmented, decentralized, it makes it much harder for sources of authority to control the flow of information. Bad news for dictators, right? Think about it, right? Old school dictators, you want to take over, shut down the television station or take control of the television station, shut down the newspaper or take control of the newspaper, grab the radio station, you're golden. Well, harder to do today, right? As everybody has a television network in their pocket. Yeah. Well, I don't really know. I have to be careful about trying to pretend that I know more than I do about all this stuff because it's so fast moving and organic. But, let's take a look at Turkey maybe, huh?
Sure.
So we see the Prime Minister shutting down or attempting to shut down Twitter and attempting to shut down other social media outlets, YouTube, etc. And people in Turkey were turning to their 12-year-old kids to help them figure out a workaround so that they could use Twitter, and it took them all of 20 minutes to figure that out, right? So I think that sources of authority can slow down the fragmentation and democratization of information, but I don't think that the odds are with them if their goal is to shut it down. Now, China's doing a pretty darn good job, right? So it's not like somebody threw a switch and all of a sudden there was no dictatorships anymore. But, man, oh man, there are so many more switches today to throw. And some people refer to the idea of trying to thwart social media communication as sort of whack-a-mole. As soon as you whack one mole, another one comes up somewhere else, like we saw in the Arab Spring or in Turkey or in Venezuela or anywhere else. So these are tough times for dictators.
Okay.
And I'm not disappointed about that.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It's easy to come across as being like ridiculously naive, but I believe that these changes are giving David a little bit more of a slingshot with Goliath. Because Goliaths sometimes struggle with social media, right? Because if the premise is that social media are sort of democratized, decentralized, bottom-up means of sort of conversational communication, if those premises are accurate, Goliaths struggle with that, right? It's hard to be nimble and organic and authentic and bottom up when you're Goliath. So maybe the odds are tilting a little bit in the direction of David. Yeah, I don't think it's true to say that they're totally deregulated, right? So we know that China confronts social media users every minute of every day. We see Turkey doing it, we see Venezuela doing it. So no, I don't think that it's safe to say that they're deregulated, but they're harder to regulate than traditional mass communication, right? So you hear some people who study this stuff say that the era of mass communication is being replaced by an era of masses of communicators. I like that. Harder to regulate masses of communicators than it is mass communication, but not impossible, just harder. I think we should, obviously. But, so absolutely yes, without any equivocation. But isn't it interesting that we, you and I, and the 1.23 billion people on Facebook, that we are voluntarily posting information about us that's private, personal, organic, and that it is then being used without our permission. But again, back on the Facebook model, I mean, there's two levels here. I mean, your question in some ways might go to the NSA and sort of surreptitious data gathering. I'm going to take that out of the question for the moment. Let's just look at Facebook, Google, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn data gathering. The vast majority of that starts with us choosing to share it. Our standards of how much of our private life we choose to share has certainly changed over the last decade. And the amount of information that you and I voluntarily share on social media is staggering. Maybe we all need to think that through a little bit more. Different question as to what's happening surreptitiously, and that's really scary stuff. Data miners, marketers, and I'm part of that, right? So rather than having me sort of point to that as the bad guys, I'm part of that world. But the extent to which marketers can and are harvesting data and combining data sources to present marketers with intensely personal and personalized information is staggering, and we should be scared about it. We should be worried. Oh boy, isn't that fun? I mean, you want to make a lot of money, be a communications lawyer, huh? I mean, these are fascinatingly complex times for the issues that you're raising. Wow, may you live in interesting times. We live in very interesting times. I think the battle over privacy is just picking up. And I think it's going to be a fascinating, long back and forth battle.
Okay.
Fascinating though, really. I mean, God bless the folks who are worried about it and who are trying to wake us up, me and you and everybody else, and who are trying to fight to defend some reasonable level of privacy, because there are some very powerful forces amassed on the other side of that battle who have enormous resources that they can and are spending in ways that can and is scary. Well, I mean, you know, I'm much more interested in the power of social media as an inbound technology, right? So, of course, I participate in the outbound side of social as well. So I occasionally will post, like yesterday, a selfie of David Ortiz and Barack Obama because I thought it was such a cool picture. And yes, I contributed to that hydrant of selfie information out there. But with those being treated as perhaps an exception, what I love and am excited about in terms of social media is the inbound power of social media to bring information to us that is richer and deeper and more varied potentially than anything we could ever dream of before. So I can sit at this little terminal here, this little computer, and receive information instantly from around the world on subjects that I'm curious about and interested in ways that my parents could never dream of. So as an inbound revolution, all good. Outbound, we're all polluted with information that's not particularly enlightening and valuable, and that's going to be with us forever.